Hi everyone. In the last video, we saw how for loop works. Now there is another way in which you can loop through a block of code in Python, which is to use the while loop. So first, let's write the syntax of the while loop. So while, and then you give the condition that you want to check, colon, and then the block of code. This block of code will execute when the condition is true. So this while loop will run till the condition becomes false. Once the condition is false, we will come out of the while loop. So let's understand this with an example. So let's say we want to print numbers from 1 to 5. Now, if we were to use while loop for this, how we are going to do it? So we'll say while condition. Maybe I'll define a variable n, assign it a value 1. Now I have to check whether n is less than 6 or not. Why 6? Because we want to print the numbers from 1 to 5. So if n is less than 6, I'm going to print n. Now, if I run it as it is, what will happen? In the first iteration, this condition would be checked. Is less than 6, 1 is less than 6. So it is going to go ahead and print 1. In the second iteration, again, this condition is true because n value we haven't changed. So n is still 1. This condition is true. It is again going to print 1. And if you think about it, this condition will never become false. Why? Because we are not updating the value of n. So we'll get into an infinite loop. We'll only come out of the while loop once this condition becomes false. And this condition here with this code here is never becoming false. So we'll get into an infinite loop and it will keep printing 1. That's not what we want. We want it to print numbers from 1 to 5. So we have to update our n. We have to increment the value of n by 1. Let's go ahead and run this code. So what's going on here? So in the first iteration, the value of n is 1 and 1 is less than 6. It is going to print 1 and it is going to increment the value of n by 1. So the new value of n is 2. In the second iteration, it will again check if 2 is less than 6. Yes, it is indeed less than 6. So it's going to go ahead and run this block of code. It is going to print 2 and then it is going to increment the value of n by 1. So the new value of n becomes 3. It will keep doing this till n becomes 6. When n becomes 6, again this condition would be checked. Now this condition is false, 6 is not less than 6, and we will come out of our while loop. So you must be wondering that this could have been easily done using a for loop, something like this. So yes, you are right. We could have used for loop here. Then why are we learning while loop? We are learning while loop because while loop comes really handy in situations where you don't know at the outset how many times your block of code needs to be executed. So there you can use while loop. While loop will check for a condition and only when the condition becomes false, we will come out of our while loop. On the other hand, the for loop is used when you know that I need to run this block of code these many times. So for example, if you want to iterate over or run a particular piece of code for all items in the list. So you know that this particular block of code would be executed as many times as there are the items in my list. If there are 10 items, I need to run this particular block of code 10 times. So there you will use for loop. But there could be situations where either of the two, the while or the for loop will work. Then you can choose one based on your preference. But sometimes when you don't know in the very beginning that how many times you need to loop through your block of code, there the while loop comes really handy. So let me give you an example of that. So let's say you take a password as an input from your user. So we are going to use input function for it. And maybe we have another password, the system password. Let's just say Python 123. And only when this system password matches the password inputted by the user, we want to stop. Otherwise, we want to keep prompting the user to enter the password. So in this scenario, I feel that while loop would really be helpful. So let's try it out. While, so we want to check if the password here matches the system password or not. So this is my condition. So I want to run it till the time the password is not equal to the system password, right? If the password entered is not same as the system password, I want to keep prompting. And let's properly indent this code here so that this belongs to your while loop. Also, we need to initialize password here because we are referencing it here. So you cannot reference a variable before initializing it. So let's do that. Just entering empty string as a placeholder. So let's try it out. So it's asking us to enter a password. Let's say I enter hello as the password. Again, it is asking us hi, and it will keep asking us or prompting us to enter the password till the time we enter the correct password. Once we have entered the correct password, we'll come out of the while loop. So first time around, first iteration, password is this empty string and system password is 123. So this is not equal condition. So this will evaluate to true and it will prompt us to enter the password. We entered hello. Again, it will check this condition. Again, the condition is true. Hi is not equal to Python 123. It will again prompt us. And once we have entered the correct password, this condition will become false and we will be taken out of our while loop. So you see, in this situation, while loop is really useful because we don't know at the outset how many tries a person would take to enter the correct password. A person might enter the correct password in one try, they might take 5 tries. So we don't know in the beginning how many times we need to run this piece of code. Now, while also comes with a else block. So let's try. I'll just copy the code from here. It comes with the else block. So you can say while n is less than 6, I'm printing n. And let's just initialize n also to 1 here. Else print successfully completed the task. Now, how does this work? So let me just run it for you once. So it is running the else block. So how does it work? So if the while loop is completed successfully, it is going to go ahead and execute the else block. Then you might ask, okay, then that means every time whatever is written in the else block would be executed. No, that's not true. If you're breaking out of the while loop in between, let's say you're checking a condition, breaking out of the while loop in middle using the break statement, then your else block would not be executed. So let's try it out. So here, let's do this. Let's check if n is equal to 3. And if n is equal to 3, I want to break out of this while loop. So now let's go ahead and run it. So you see, it is not returning this successfully completed the task. That means that it is not running the else block. So what's going on here with the code? So it will check for this condition. It will print 1, 2, 3 as soon as n becomes 3. This condition is true. And then we are calling this break here and it will break out of the while loop without running the else block. So that's on while loop. I hope you enjoyed today's session. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment and I'll try to answer all your questions and queries. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.